watching VU13.
Good afternoon. I'm John Good. A Kerrisdale florist is upsetting some of his neighbors.
Coming up, Marion's final look at the killing fields.
And Peter Clementi with the latest weather, but first, our nightly newsreel.
And now, First News at 4:30 with Tom Walters.
Good afternoon. The federal government steps up its testing of milk following the Chernobyl nuclear disaster.
Now, First News at 5 with Joanna Piras and Lyndon Soles. Doriana Timolo. Sports with Paul Carson. And Douglas Miller with the weather.
Today on First News, the Cassiar connector spending $85 million to unplug a major bottleneck. Vancouver, the city where increasingly only the wealthy can afford to buy homes. And the Socreds are spending millions on new highways. First News with Russ Froese.
When your news begins a half hour earlier, you need a team, one that can bring it all together faster and better.
You need to combine up-to-the-minute local news, in-depth investigative assignments, international and national stories.
Then there's hard-hitting, action-packed sports. Accurate and informative weather forecasts.
You need all the news that affects the way we live.
And you need a team to deliver that news.
That team is here. CKVU First News at 5:30.
And now, an update from the UTV Newsroom, your 24-hour news source.
Good morning, I'm Sharon Halonia. A Toronto...
Tonight, commuters derailed. Dirty dirt, Richmond shuts the door on an Expo legacy. Down and dirty, some nasty words in the Socred leadership race. And in sports, the return of Doug Flutie.
U News at 6 with Russ Froese and Tamara Stanners.
Good evening. Tamara is off tonight.
News update every hour on the hour from the UTV Newsroom, your 24-hour news source.
Good morning, I'm Scott Brownrigg. Back to work legislation to end a national rail strike is crawling its way through Parliament. The legislation is expected to become law by Monday.
What we're going to try and introduce here at Brick House and hopefully throughout Richmond is a parent watch.
As a society, we have just generally pervasive violence at all levels.
Gordon Wilson really did have a picture in his office of a lone wolf.
Good evening. A dangerous firebug in Richmond, and tonight police get results.
Also tonight, saving for the future, what you need to know about retirement. The front lines in the fight against speeding and fitness for the stars. How Hollywood stays in shape tonight on U News at 23:30.
I'm Christina Matisik. Tonight on Global News, the Lower Mainland celebrates Christmas in unique and chilly ways. Cubans enjoy the holy day for the first time in 30 years. And the big battle over the Christmas blends.
Now, live, this is Global News.
Good evening and Merry Christmas, everyone. With 125 turkeys and 1,000 pounds of potatoes, the Salvation Army cooked up one of Vancouver's biggest Christmas dinners today.
I'm Susan Lee. Tonight on Global News, busted on the Vancouver waterfront. It may be Canada's largest drug seizure yet.
Now, live, this is Global News.
Good evening. It started out as a routine check for Canada Customs agents and turned into anything but.
I'm Russ Froese.
I'm Jennifer Mather, and this is Global News. Tonight, the huge impact of high heating costs. Schools consider cutting programs while the government backs off plans for a hydro rebate.
Downtown Vancouver plunged into darkness. A look at the fallout from a major blackout.
And a warning about a potentially fatal disease. Abbotsford is told to be on alert for meningitis.
Live, this is Global News.
Good evening. Soaring gas prices are hitting your neighborhood schools, hitting them hard.
I'm Dag Sharman. Tonight, hostage taking over a peaceful land to a dramatic incident at a women's prison in Burnaby. Haste makes waste a huge jet fuel spill may have been the result of impatient workers. And hello, CKVU. Just minutes to go before big changes appear at most local TV stations.
Live, this is Global News.
Good evening. We begin tonight with very good news. A hostage taking at the Burnaby Correctional Center for Women.
I'm Cindy Sarah. This is CKVU News. Tonight, a busy afternoon for Surrey RCMP. Two daytime standoffs at the same time. Big cars, big appetites, catering to the masses at the Molson Indy. And a huge blast in the heart of Tokyo's entertainment district leaves dozens dead.
Live, this is CKVU News.
Good evening. A very busy afternoon for Surrey RCMP. I'm Jennifer Mather.
I'm Russ Froese. This is CKVU News. Tonight, the end is near, but who will come out on top in the teachers' dispute?
The human toll has begun as the camel cuts begin to sink in.
And you think you're attached to your vehicle? Meet a man who's been driving the same truck for more than 30 years.
Live, this is CKVU News.
Good evening. I'm Russ Froese.
I'm Jocelyn Laidlaw. This is CKVU News. Tonight, what will be cut from your child's school? New funding rules are announced.
The first step in cleaning up Britannia Beach is done, but is it enough?
And we are live at the Roundhouse in downtown Vancouver. Much music is here, and so is Alanis Morissette.
Live, this is CKVU News.
Good evening, everyone. Jennifer is off tonight.
I'm Russ Froese, and you are watching the first edition of CityPulse at 6. Tonight, how safe is your city? Concern grows after another attack on a foreign student.
Our commitment is to be an alternative.
Citytv, it's here, and that means you get a voice in local television news.
I'm Cindy Leong. Just how safe is the water you're swimming in? We've done our own testing, and we'll tell you what we found.
Good evening. Is Vancouver safe for foreign students?
Good evening. It is Vancouver's version of David and Goliath, and tonight it was David's turn to speak out. The campaign to stop...
Coming up on City Pulse tonight, thousands evacuated as fires rip through the interior. We find out how much of a fire risk Stanley Park is to Vancouver. And Elvis Mania, are your blue suede shoes ready to rock? City Pulse tonight starts right now. Firestorms descend on the interior as thousands are evacuated and flames rip through barrier. Some reports suggesting 60 homes may have been destroyed.
Live from the City Pulse newsroom, here is Mark Dougherty.
Good evening, and we have extensive coverage of the fire situation gripping much of the province's interior tonight. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Television. BC patients seeking private treatment will have to make their appointments very soon. The province has passed legislation making it illegal to jump the queue and pay for private medical care.
Mayor Thorpe in mourning.
It's not just the officer at the shop, it's someone you know.
Neighbors say the man who shot 4 police officers was a danger to the entire community.
They said, don't go on his land, don't allow your animals on his land or he will shoot you.
Dangerous drug laws.
Trafficking narcotics, trafficking narcotics, trafficking narcotics.
Politicians call for tougher penalties for drug crimes.
We do know that the average person involved in a grow up has been involved in criminal activity on average about 13 years.
Live, this is CityPulse at 6.
Good evening. We're learning more tonight about that horrific shooting outside of Edmonton.
Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Television for this Monday morning, August 15th, 2005. Thanks for joining us. Well, riding your bike and taking the SkyTrain, the two now have more in common. Also, hot and dry conditions remain across much of the province.
He's been convicted 82 times.
We have details about a public safety warning involving a notorious sex offender. CityNews starts.
Bertuzzi is back.
I'm a firm believer in second chances.
For the first time since attacking Steve Moore, Todd Bertuzzi is back on the ice at GM Place, and he's answering questions about the incident.
And if I'm going to sit here and keep getting ridiculed about it, how are we ever going to give someone a second chance to become better?
Picton preparations.
We're getting through it, but there's just so much material to get through.
Robert Picton's murder trial faces another delay. Good evening. It's the day Canucks fans have been waiting for.
Power forward Todd Bertuzzi is back in the game and back on the ice.
Oh, here we go. It is 6 o'clock. It is Thursday, September 3rd. Now, something's missing here. Don Chubet has gone on vacation, so we hyped this all week long. It is true. Jillian Harris is in the house.
Good morning. You're watching Breakfast Television, Monday, August 10th. How many days until back to school? I don't even know.
Oh, I'm sure the kids have counted it down, marking it on the calendar. I don't worry about that stuff, but I think about a month.
Yeah, about a month or so. Cash Sablock is here.
Yeah, we have no home to live at, and we're a little upset.
Burnaby Blaze, a young boy, remains in hospital this afternoon after being severely burned in a late-night house fire. Want to be part of the opening and closing ceremonies in 2010? Well, VANOC wants to hear from you this afternoon. Details on how you can take part in the biggest celebration in the world coming up. And good afternoon. Welcome to Lunch Television here on this Tuesday afternoon. Michelle McDermott is off once again, so Dawn from BT joins us GPS.
Technologic.
On Tuesday, I'm wondering if these could relay instructions on how to ski to Riaz as he wears those things.
Thanks, Riaz. Good morning. Residents of a Burnaby high-rise and RCMP got more than they bargained for after finding some explosives in an apartment building overnight. 7:31 on this Tuesday, November the 4th. Stay tuned. In 10 minutes' time, we're going to share our Athlete of the Week. Very cool story you don't want to miss. Right now, we got to get you up to speed on all things making news to this hour. Here's Kyle at the desk. Thanks, Riaz. 7 o'clock on the dot. The BC Teachers Federation has a strong mandate for job action this morning. Its members have voted overwhelmingly in favor of striking.
Deadly plane crash. At least one person has died following a small plane bound for Tofino crashed on Vancouver Island. The young woman who was dragged for blocks between a van and a trailer on the downtown east side has been released from hospital.
Whether you're reconnecting with family you haven't seen in years or jetting off somewhere tropical, I catch up with travelers here at YVR on one of the airport's busiest days of the year.
It was a busy weekend at YVR. It's expected to be very busy today as well. At 6 o'clock, good morning. You're watching Breakfast Television. At least one person has died following a plane crash on the west side of Vancouver Island. Good morning, 6 o'clock. It's been a deadly night on Metro Vancouver roads. Police are working to determine if the weather may have been a factor in 3 separate crashes.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to City News. Every night at 6 and 11 p.m., we're out in your community.
It's a fantastic team of people really dedicated to doing something different, doing something relevant and ethical and meaningful to the communities, and I think audiences are going to love it.
It's not easy. It's one of the 10 toughest trails in the world.
It might be on your bucket list, the Grouse Grind, but after a man went into cardiac arrest over the weekend on this trail, officials want to make sure you know what you're getting into before you start climbing up.
I'm a bit old school, so I don't necessarily love them.
I think it's a great idea.
BC's education curriculum is changing. Now, some of those changes have already come into effect and some are still on their way. Now, that has some parents happy, but others concerned. What exactly are those changes, and how do they compare with other provinces?
It's the last day of the PNE's 2018 season. Lots of people are here wrapping up their long weekend and their summer holidays as it's back to school tomorrow. Coming up, we find out how this year's edition of the fair went and what Grammy Award-winning singer is performing here live tonight.
It's not easy. It's one of the 10 toughest trails in the world.
The first time you feel like you won't see the next day.
It's on a lot of people's bucket list, the Grouse Grind. And while it feels amazing to conquer, it can be very dangerous.
One person has died after a plane bound for Courtenay on Vancouver Island crashed last night.
Card scams.
At least one person has died after a plane crash on the west side of Vancouver Island. That's according to the BC Coroner's Service. RCMP say investigators found the plane's wreckage on Sunday.
She's so young. She's only 13 years old. She deserved quite longer than this life.
A very emotional day outside Provincial Court in Vancouver as a community comes together, largely made up of Chinese Canadians, in support of a family whose 13-year-old daughter was murdered more than 1 year ago. The man charged in her murder makes his first court appearance today.
It doesn't make us feel overly safe.
It just makes you a little bit more uncomfortable.
A warning to UBC students after a man exposes himself and touches himself in front of 2 women inside a woman's washroom, and now police are asking for your help to identify the suspect.
If you attended the Skookum Festival in Stanley Park, rode the Aqua Bus, or even ate at a restaurant in East Vancouver, you could have been exposed to measles. And don't assume just because you were raised in BC that you were vaccinated. I'll have more information coming up.
Good evening. We begin tonight with some wild weather over parts of the Lower Mainland, much of which was shared over social media. Residents in Maple Ridge experienced hail the size of quarters pounding down earlier tonight.
At CKVU, it's the people behind the news who make it happen. To give you the news first. Weekdays at 5.